Hello and welcome back. This week I'm going to be looking at neurographic art. I saw a video on this a few weeks back and I've spent some time having a look at it and looking at lots of tutorials, etc. And the specific one that I've got the notes on there I will link to below in the description so that you can follow on with one of the similar ones that I did myself. Basically, neurographic art was discovered or invented by the Russian psychologist Pavel Piskarev in 2014, and it uses a connection between your brain and your hand to help to redirect habitual thought patterns that cause you fear and concern. So the way that he would work with it, or the way that he says that you could work with it, is that you could write down a problem or something that your brain is tussling with on the back of your paper that you're working with, and then on the other side you'll turn it over and create a piece of neurographic art. And how you start with this is, if you look at me at the minute, I am creating my very first neurographic line on this piece of paper. I started at one end. You can start at whichever end you like. It is completely up to you. There are no rules about where you start. The only rule about your line is that the only few rules about your line, there are a couple. So no repeating patterns, so no zigzags or like loopies or basically anything that repeats itself. So a straight line is a repeated pattern because it's just a straight line. Anything with anything that's a pattern, basically, you're trying not to do patterns because your brain will automatically look to create a pattern. And so what you're trying to do is to find areas, and if your brain wants the pen to go one way, to try and redirect your pen. It's like taking charge of your thoughts, if you like, taking charge of your brain. So yeah, it looks to try and help you through a mindful and meditative kind of state in order to set your mind on the problem that you've written on the back, and during this process you might find that you come to conclusions. So on your page you're going to do a few neurographic lines. I've seen somebody do a really good technique where they put a coin on the page and kind of pushed it with their pen and then followed where the coin goes, if that makes some sense. You might be able to find a video on that somewhere on YouTube. I think that's where I saw it. And they put a coin on the page and then the pen was kind of like behind the coin, and they pushed, as they drew, they pushed the coin along, and wherever the coin went, that's where the pen would go. And that's probably quite a nice way to start. Obviously I hadn't seen that at this point, so I was doing my own technique of just mindfully and slowly drawing your piece. Some of the videos I said do a scribble for 15 seconds. It's not that prescriptive. It's not like Zen doodling where you do a scribble and then fill in a pattern. It's kind of like the complete opposite. The lines that you draw have to be thought about and considered, because you have to try and control the line in your own way and not letting your brain run away with making a pattern or something that's recognizable. So yeah, it's kind of like the opposite of Zen doodling. It's similar, it's a meditative process, and it's a good way of relaxing and calming thoughts that you might have about a specific thing that you're thinking about. And so it's used in art therapy. It is an art therapy technique, as I said, that Pavel Piskarev, to give him his full name, came across and started bringing into the world in 2014. You can do many courses on this particular thing in order to expand your knowledge of the subject and how it might help you in different situations. But it also is quite nice to do just as a relaxing technique for yourself, or just something to do in order to get your creative juices flowing, and in some ways create a nice piece of artwork as well. You could work with this and keep working with it until you get a technique that you like to work with, and you can create some really beautiful art pieces doing this as well. So you can see here what I'm doing is where the lines intersect, this is where we have to round it off. It's called the rounding off, and basically you're rounding off anywhere a line crosses or anywhere you've got a jagged point. You don't want anything that's pointy or like an arrow, or you know, something where like an angle of some kind. Anywhere you've got anything angular, you're going to try and round it off. So I'm looking here at different places that need rounding. You can thicken your lines out a little bit in order to get rid of a point, like I tried to do there. Obviously you might miss some of the connections on the first go round. Just keep looking at your work. And here's a little bit further along the line. I've added in a few more places and now adding a few more of those rounding areas in with my pen. So you kind of just take your pen, round it off, and then fill it in, like colouring it in with your pen. So there's another area that I've missed. And I'm now just going back in and adding in my rounded parts. It's like if you've ever seen brain patterns, it's like finding those nodes where they shoot off and join in together. So yeah, you can probably search that up and find out an image of that as well. If I was any sort of a video editor, I would have put in a little picture there, but I'm still learning. So one day you might get a perfectly edited piece of video footage where I've slotted in lots of whizzy gizmo things, but at the minute this is it. I've just found a point there. That point needs to go, so I'm kind of making it into a new line. And this line has to now then connect somewhere. You can't leave lines hanging. That's another thing within your artwork. You can't leave anything where the line comes to a stop within the piece of work. It has to take itself to an edge or to another line in order to like make connections. So that's as far as we got with that, rounding off the corners. I don't think I can see any more, but if I ever do, I can always go back in with my pen and reconnect them. I can see another one as well. Looking at it now, and I can see an area where I missed, and hopefully I'll go back in there and find, oh yeah, there, see, I found it. And now I'm rounding it off. But yeah, I mean, it is something that you can do at any point in time and just enjoy the process of creating something that doesn't have to be something, and it's more of a problem-solving, contemplative, meditative process that is, as I said, very mindful. You have to be within the process of it when you're creating it, and so that helps you to redirect your brain and your thought patterns, which I think is what Piskarev intended. And now on to the colouring process. I have got a beautiful palette here that I got from Novae Co last year. It's the Cafe Scents palette, and I really love it. And there's a couple of extra ones added in there that she gave me as samples when she sent me the palette, which was really kind of her. So I've added those in as well. So I will link that palette and the shop in the notes below. So if you want to go and visit Novae Co, I do believe there are some discounts available as I do this video, so do go and have a look and check it out. Lots and lots of beautiful paints to see there and to use. So what I'm going to use with this is my trusty silver black velvet number 4 watercolour brush, and I've got some water and I've got a spray, so I'm going to activate my watercolours just by giving them a quick spritz with a spray bottle. And what you're going to do with this is you're not going to colour in each and every section as a singular colour. What the lady on the video that I watched suggested is that you take areas of your art piece and use the colour in a specific area. So where I'm doing within the lines at the minute, but then I will link up with other parts and my watercolour drawing. But I'll probably just let you watch and then you can watch and see exactly what I do. I have speeded up the next bit in order so that you don't get too bored. But enjoy the watercolour process. So I've finished my watercolouring, and now I'm going to go in and emphasise just the edges of my painting. I'm using some of the Faber Castell Albrecht Durer pencils, the watercolour variety. I only have, I think, about 4 of these particular ones. They are the Magnus ones. I'm sure they're called Magnus. I could be wrong, or Magnum or something. Magnus. Yeah, so they're quite thick pencils, and I really enjoy using them. They're quite nice. I might have to get myself a few more of these, either in the watercolour range or the Magnus range, which are the thicker ones. So basically, I'm kind of getting the edges drawn in, and then just wetting it down with a little bit of water to soften the edges and to blend in the paints, so it would reactivate the watercolour underneath and then kind of blend into it. Again, it's kind of nice and meditative. Keep using that word, but it does feel like that when you're doing one of these paintings. It's something that absorbs you completely. So it's nice to have a little bit of time to spend to do something like this. So I will bow out and let you watch the rest of this process. After using the watercolour pencils, I do go back in, which I didn't film, with some Neocolor 2 pencils, which are also water soluble, just to get some of the colours that I didn't have in the Albrecht Durer range. So yeah, you'll be able to see the finished portion of this, but you won't be able to see me using the Neocolors, which I didn't add in. I think I did a video, but realised I hadn't pressed the button, so sorry people, you'll miss out on the Neocolor portion of this, but you do see the idea. So here are the Neocolors that I used to complete the colouring in of my piece and to give it some definition. And I hope you want to have a little go yourself. So please do have a go and let me know how you get on in the comments. Thank you, and I will see you soon. Take care.